Get more confidence. Get that promotion. Get moving up the corporate ladder. Get a better gig with an MBA from Mays Business School at Texas A&M University. Whether you're starting out or stepping up, now you can take your career to a whole new level with a full-time MBA in College Station and convenient weekend options at Houston City Center. Texas A&M has a program to suit your schedule. Visit mba.tamu.edu. And gig 'em, Aggie.
Howdy, welcome to Mays MasterCast. I'm Shannon Deere, the Assistant Dean for Graduate Programs, here with your astounding host, Ben Wiggins.
And you're on it today, Shannon. Astounding. I appreciate that.
I'm really working some variety into my life.
I like it. You've been on point with the adjectives lately.
Thank you. Working hard at it. How are you today?
I am great. It is a beautiful day in Aggie land, and it's been a productive day. You're glowing today. You have a glow about you, and you seem very happy. So I'm happy to be here with you.
Thank you. I am happy. I'm very happy. So today on the show we have Porter Garner. Porter is the president and CEO of the Association of Former Students. Porter, of course, is also a former student. He graduated from Texas A&M in 1979 with a BBA in marketing. Whoop to Mays Business School. Whoop. He began his career with Hughes Tool Company before joining the association's staff as field director in 1981. After nearly 18 years of serving at the association, Porter was unanimously elected by the board of directors to lead the organization. Over the past 21 years, Porter has served as the president and CEO. He has inspired innovation and led initiatives to achieve the association's vision to become the premier alumni, or as we say, former student organization. Under his leadership as president and CEO, the Association of Former Students' total assets have grown from $55 million to $119 million. And the organization has raised over $321 million impacting Texas A&M and Texas Aggies, which is certainly a testament to Porter's leadership, but also a testament to the commitment of Fightin' Texas Aggies. Porter also served on the board of Baylor Scott White Health in the College Station region. He has served on numerous nonprofit boards as well. Porter and his wife, Lisa, class of 91, have 3 children, Claire, class of 21, Callie, class of 23, and Porter, the 4th. Please welcome Porter Garner to the show.
We welcome Porter Garner to the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Pleasure to be here, Ben. Thanks for having me.
How was your weekend? We talked a little bit about this already.
It was a great weekend. Really great on many levels, mainly because it was our 4th quarter board meeting and leadership council meeting.
Mm-hmm.
For the first time in the association's 141-year history, we conducted our leadership council virtually, which was disappointing that we had to do it.
Right.
But after the fact, it allowed so many people to participate in different ways.
Yeah.
And the early returns are really impressive. It was seen all over the world, and a lot of people got to participate that normally might not have. So it was a great weekend, followed up by the Aggies beating Arkansas.
Yes, very nice. And we talked about the team this year. It's been pretty good returns so far.
Absolutely, exciting.
What is your favorite superpower?
If reading people's minds were a superpower, I'd love to be able to do that.
What's the first thing you would do with that if you could read people's minds?
Man, it would be I'm a marketer. Got my degree here at A&M in 79.
Yeah.
And so much of my marketing analytics is trying to think about what the market wants.
Mm-hmm.
So many times I find myself, whether in focus groups or just studying a particular segment of our market, trying to figure out what they're thinking, So that's probably where that comes from.
I love that.
Yeah.
Let's, where did you grow up?
Laredo, Texas is my home, down on the border of the Rio Grande. I grew up in a rural setting and ranching. Had a scholarship to A&M from my local FFA chapter, which I was heavily involved with.
Yeah.
But you had to major in agriculture.
Yeah.
I did not want to major in agriculture. I'd seen all the cows and horses I ever wanted to see in my life. I wanted a business degree.
Right.
So I gave up the scholarship and majored in business.
How many in your family growing up?
There were 5 of us in our family. Obviously, mom and dad, both deceased now, and 2 older sisters. Both went to the University of Texas. So I saved the family. And came to
I'm
Texas
sorry.
A&M.
Sorry to hear that. But
my dad was
happy that you did the Lord's work. What did your parents do, and how did that impact you?
My dad came back from World War II a bit banged up. He ended up taking over the Cadillac Bar in Nuevo Laredo, Mexico, from my father-in-law, who started it in 1925 during Prohibition. And it was a rather famous institution along the border and was very good to our family. But we ranched as well. But really, the Cadillac Bar was probably my dad's main occupation.
I hear that. What, and did your mom stay at home?
Yes,
what did she do?
Yeah.
Okay. What was your greatest challenge as a child?
I was left alone a lot because we were out in the country, so to speak. And for whatever reason, I had to figure things out for myself. And while it was a great challenge at age 12, 13, and 14,
sure,
at age 17 and 18, I could cook a 5-course meal. I could, I was driving well before 16. So my point is, I guess, by the time I was in high school, I was a pretty independent guy.
I think by the time I was a senior in high school, I was maybe able to do my own laundry.
Yeah.
All right. Give us 60 seconds on your road through what has become Mays and on to today as the president and CEO of the association.
Well, it's interesting to me, perhaps not to your listeners. I actually transferred to Texas A&M in the fall of 1976.
Yeah.
But majored in business, was a marketing major.
Mm-hmm.
Believe it or not, even though I wanted to be a marketer, I had this obsession with wanting to be a United States Secret Service agent. Oh. And I focused on the presidential detail. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be in Washington and D.C. protecting the president. I was very dedicated to that. Jimmy Carter was the president of the United States. I found out, sadly, my senior year, in fact, my graduating semester, that there was a hiring freeze that Jimmy Carter put on for certain departments. And the Treasury Department was one of those, and that's who the Secret Service was under at the time. So here I am with a marketing degree, focused on going to work for the United States Secret Service. Had already been through some interviews, was hopeful, and then was told they weren't going to hire. Now, maybe that was just me. I don't know. But anyway, in the last month of my time at A&M, I had to scramble and find a job. And so I did. And I went to work for the Hughes Tool Company. An Aggie hired me.
Yeah.
And I did that for about 14 months and then came to the association.
Given that you wanted to work for the Secret Service, and that was kind of the brass ring for you, as it were, what made you choose marketing as a major? How did those two things add up for you?
I think early on, really in high school, I had a knack, an intuition about people, and matching people with products, matching people with services. It was pointed out to me, to be honest with you. I was in the FFA chapter at Laredo Nixon High School. Yeah. And I think some of my leadership opportunities came as a result of offering suggestions. Yeah. And perhaps seeing things that nobody else saw. And so the chapter advisor would often put me in roles to advance the chapter. And then I got asked about things to advance student activities at Nixon High School. So I just think people kind of led me to say, you need to be in marketing. That's what you need to do. Mm-hmm. And I wanted a business degree. I was thinking finance, management. I ended up in marketing, took a lot of finance classes, but I think it was just a perspective that I had, or a God-given talent to match people and what they might want with things they might desire. And so I don't know.
All right. So from Hughes Tool.
Yeah. I was in sales and did really well. And I really enjoyed it. I knew nothing about the oil field. You want to talk about a rookie now? Man, I was the poster boy, knew nothing about it, and was a little intimidated by it because it was a challenging time in that It was a boom in the oil field in 1980.
Yeah.
And so I inherited a great opportunity. But I was on a pretty good track, is my point.
Yeah.
And very happy. And then I got a call from Randy Matson asking if I might be interested in visiting with him about potential opportunities at the Association of Former Students.
Yeah.
And so I crawled through the telephone and came to College Station, met with several folks at the association, enjoyed that immensely. Did not think I had a chance. I'm walking out, and here comes the head yell leader from 1980. Here comes Corps Commander from 1978. And anyway, all these leaders, student leaders from my days at A&M. And so I went back. I thought nothing of it and poured myself back into my job as a salesman. And next thing you know, I'm offered the job, and I took it, and here I am. But I must admit, Ben, took the job, started March the 9th, 1981.
Yeah.
39 years ago. Had no intentions of making it a career. My thinking was it was a great job, great opportunity, a lot of travel, working with A&M clubs and volunteers all over the world. And I thought, man, what an opportunity. And I'll parlay that, who knows, 5, 6, 7 years down the road, I'll know a lot of people and I'll have lots of opportunities. But, and I did, but I just, I love the organization. I loved our mission.
Yeah.
And more than anything, I loved the impact that we made on Texas A&M and Texas Aggies. Very gratifying.
I love that. Love that. When people ask what makes the Aggie network so different from other large university alumni networks, what do you share with them? Every university takes pride in connecting their graduates, connecting potentially faculty, that sort of thing. What are we doing differently? What makes ours different?
Well, first of all, we have 100 years of affinity that has been built largely from a predominantly military culture.
Mm-hmm.
And up until 1965, we were compulsory corps.
Right.
We were all male. And a lot of those traditions and indeed just the culture of A&M built an affinity among our former students.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I started with the association in 1981, the majority of our former students had that all-male compulsory military experience.
Right.
And so it stood to reason that we enjoyed a lot of loyal affinity, almost blind loyalty to Texas A&M,
mm-hmm.
Which was a great thing.
Yes.
And we still have a bit of that, even though the Corps is about 4% of our student body today.
Right.
However, a lot of the traditions are so rooted that it compels our students to be involved at so many different levels. Today we have, I'm told, over 1,200 student organizations. So as students, Aggies are very involved, and they see the impact they can have on Texas A&M as students. I think as former students, they want to have a similar impact. And you see that in our 250 A&M clubs. You see that in the involvement with our classes in our class agent program. You see that through our constituent network. So I think the answer to the question is Texas A&M has always been different. It was founded in pride and rooted in tradition. And I believe that that culture has built the loyalty that we enjoy today amongst 500,000 former students. And we attract a different student, and we produce an incredible former student.
As you look toward the future, what's out on the horizon? What's a thing that you think we can do or even change to continue making the Aggie network the strongest former student network?
Well, as much as we look forward, we also look inward.
Yes.
And the reason for that is we have something that very few universities have. A lot of them have started fish camps as a result of what they see at A&M.
Yeah.
So looking inward, we're a very unique alumni association for a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
We're one of the few, in fact, I think we're the only one that has it in their mission statement to serve the student body. But we're one of the few that really engage on a holistic level with the student body. Many alumni associations will engage a senior class and start to talk to them, shortly before they graduate.
Right.
We try to get engaged at fish camp.
Yeah.
We are at fish camp every session.
Yeah.
And we want fish to understand the role that they will soon play in 4 short years as a former student. And more than that, what we really want them to know is many of the benefits and experiences that they will enjoy as students are a result of the association and a result of hundreds of thousands of former students who care about their experience and want them to have a great experience as a student. So, as much as we're looking over the horizon and growth and headed towards 600,000 former students and looking at technology and what that will do, how it will benefit our mission, and looking at our programming, which has to change. COVID's going to change some things potentially. We have a very good spirit of continuous improvement at the association. Our business plan every year involves looking 3 years out. So our team is very focused on the future, but we also have a campus programs department that deals exclusively with the campus, organizes and administers Ring Day. So it's very focused on Fish Camp. And so as a marketer, I can tell you this. One of the things we look at is we've got a focus group of 60,000 kids on this campus that are going to be former students. So why wouldn't we take advantage of that? How many companies would like to have 60,000 of their future customers available to them for 4 years? So that's kind of the strategy we employ as we are engaged with the student body.
It seems obvious now that you say it, but I'm sure there are many universities that are not doing that.
They're not.
When did you know that you wanted to be in the corner office as you described it?
Well, in 1998, I had an opportunity to go to work for AT&T. I was getting married, and that changed my course direction pretty quickly. So I did not go to work for AT&T in Mexico. What I did do was perhaps start to look around in College Station. And I was very fortunate that the board of the association picked up on it, knew it somehow or another, and leadership at the association approached me. And we just started having a conversation. It wasn't too long after that I simply told the board I would like to make a presentation before we got too serious, because I wanted them to know what they were getting. Because I would invoke change if I were hired as the CEO.
Right.
I made that presentation. I told my wife, Lisa, I said, I don't think I'm going to be hired as a result of what I presented. It's pretty aggressive change. And lo and behold, they said they liked everything I had to say. They offered me a job, and I took it. And so
when you got the offer and you learned that, oh no, they were about what I was saying. It hit right rather than hitting wrong. What was in your mind? Do you remember what was in your mind and your heart at that time?
I do. It was May of 99.
Yeah.
My oldest daughter, she was born May 16th.
Yeah.
And the board meeting, second quarter board meeting, was in May when I made the presentation. So it was an interesting time. I'm a recent newlywed. I have a child about to be born, and I've been offered the CEO role at an organization that I love. Been there 18 years. So many things were going through my mind. Over the summer of 1999, I filled a legal pad full of my vision and strategy and what I thought we would have to do to become a premier alumni organization, which was what I wanted to do. And so I did that. Was very excited about the opportunity. Was going to take over in January of 2000. The challenge became even greater when Bonfire fell.
Yeah.
And that legal pad went in a drawer for a good while because the aftermath of Bonfire was the priority. And so as excited as I was to take over in January, we were dealing with a tremendous challenge in the aftermath of the collapse of Bonfire and losing 12 of our Aggies.
What was that was, I was in high school here locally at the time, and I definitely remember, I was dating a young woman at the time whose brother was at the stack. And so, I can't pretend to understand what people in the university, and especially who were a part of Bonfire, God forbid, lost loved ones. I mean, it was obviously, it was a terrible tragedy. what was the most important thing that the association did and that the university did to make sure that things were being handled in the right way and that we were all able to move forward?
We were engaged with every family of every student we lost.
Yeah.
We immediately provided funds to the university for everything from airline tickets to funeral arrangements, to hotel rooms, to meals, to actual funeral services.
Yeah.
And we're blessed at the association that we raised the unrestricted annual fund for the university, and that we had unrestricted funds to be able to do that on a moment's notice.
Yeah.
I think within the first week or two after the fall of Bonfire, we wrote over $250,000 worth of checks to help people. My focus, even though I wasn't CEO yet, was to try to understand how best the association could really help with the greatest strategy I've ever been a part of. And it was a struggle because there were so many ways we couldn't help. We had a great desire as a team to help, but there were so many ways that we were just like most Aggies. I remember getting a call from Lyle Lovett, my good friend, and then Robert Earl Keene within a day or two after the tragedy, wanted to know what they could do. And so I said, guys, I don't know. Let me think. Well, it wasn't just a few days after that. I said, well, let's have a bonfire benefit concert. And so we immediately started working as a team. We thought this is a tangible way to raise money. It's a tangible way to heal. It's a tangible way to bring a lot of Aggies to campus. And so we set it up for January in Reed Arena. It's sold out. In fact, I'm sure the fire marshal was upset because I'm sure we had more people in there than we were supposed to. It was a huge concert.
Yeah.
And it was the bonfire benefit
I think
concert.
I remember this.
It was huge. CNN was here, Fox News, CBS.
Yeah.
I was interviewed by several of them. But Ben, it was just a real tangible way to feel like you did something both physically, mentally, spiritually, that aided not just the victims' families, but all the Aggies who were hurting for the victims and their families. And for me personally, it felt like not that we raised money, but I met with several families that came to the concert.
Yeah.
Went to see John Comstock in the hospital, took Lyle and Robert with me to the hospital to see John Comstock. So just a lot of tangible things that felt like we were doing good for the Aggie Network.
As the university and the association began to move forward from that tragedy, and you got to a point where you were ready to bring that legal pad back out again, what was the most important thing in your mind, or the most important step you took in bringing the association forward to today?
Well, I'll back up a little bit, because during that summer, at the third quarter board meeting, I visited with the board about a lot of what was on that legal pad. And a lot of it had to do with brand. The association had no brand. And I thought we had to have a brand. I thought we had to have several things that would emanate from a strong brand of identity.
Yeah.
And telling people who we are, what we do, why we do it, that would engage and inspire, at the time, 200,000 former students. And fortunately, the board was very supportive of me. And that was in about July of 99. One of the outcomes was I engaged a team of staff and university staff, and we called it Team AFS, and we basically put together a brand. And what we did was try to launch a brand for the association that was very inclusive, that would capture what had been around since 1879, but that in fact was going to broker something that was a strength of the association, a strength of Texas A&M, and that was the Aggie Network. So what you saw when we launched was a promotion of the Aggie Network. And we were about to get into high gear, and then Bonfire fell.
Yeah.
So coming out of that, we had more of a softer launch in 2000. But one of the greatest outcomes of that was Ring Day, which started in 2000.
Yeah.
Now, it started with balloons and duct tape and baling wire, but we didn't have much of a budget. But I think if you look at Ring day to day, you'll see we've achieved that vision, and we've engaged, we've inspired, we've brought the ring to a new level of recognition. It is a status for most Aggies, and it is the greatest symbol of the Aggie network today, and it connects more Aggies worldwide than anything else you have. So the brand has come to life. It is not fully mature, but I would say our brand strategy is well on point to do exactly what it was supposed to do, and ultimately promote and achieve our noble mission.
The tradition, and and even the pageantry around the ring, and now it's taking your photo when you ordered your ring, sure, and standing under the big ring. Correct. And all of that sort of thing. That stuff is kind of stamped on all of us now.
Well, that was a big part of the brand strategy, if you want to know the truth.
Sure.
And not only that, Ben, I would tell you, looking back, we had a few 100,000 former students who didn't experience ring day.
Yeah.
And I've been gratified over the years. People have said, man, I got my ring in the mail. Man, I got it over at Coke Building. Man, I got it over at Heaton Hall. I was all by myself. Nobody took my picture. There wasn't any hoopla. And that's a testimony to what we're doing now. But I think the greatest testimony is when I see kids bring their entire family with them to get their ring, and see the emotion that is associated with that milestone achievement. And when they put that ring on, and their family is as emotional as they are, and generations of Aggies, grandfather, grandmother, uncles and aunts and brothers and sisters, mom and dad, friends, professors, classmates. It is gratifying to see the vision of Ring Day come to where it is today. It really is.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. And I think one of the things that's most important, I'm kind of a sentimental guy by nature, so maybe not everyone would agree with me on this, but it coalesces the idea that this place is more than just an educational institution.
There's no question about that, Ben.
It is an idea. It's a way of life.
Yeah. I'll tell you. So I started the association in 1981, and I'm thrown into the fire. Yeah. And whether it's an A&M club or a class reunion, I was gratified to hear so many great stories about Texas A&M. But what I was hearing was really about experiences that former students had at A&M.
Yes.
Rarely did I hear about their love for Bana 364 or thermodynamics. What I heard, was their extracurricular experiences.
Yes.
And a lot of that was in the dorm, if you were in the Corps or whatever it might have been early on. But invariably, all of it was about other Aggies and the experiences they had while at Texas A&M that involved everything from Aggie football to muster, from silver taps to elephant walk, whatever it was, the Corps, sororities, off-campus Aggies, you name it, bonfire.
Yeah.
And so it just tells you, as you asked earlier, about why we're different. Yeah, I think it's because Aggies get involved as students, and they carry that love and desire to be involved over into their former student life.
Yes. And sort of right next door to all of that is the value, and you even mentioned it a second ago, is the value of family to all of this. And the idea that this feels like a family. And as you even talked about earlier with the bonfire tragedy, the idea that our family wants to reach out to your family, and that we want your family to be involved in what we do here as well. Now, you are a husband and father of 3. How do you balance?
Well, I didn't do a good job of it early on. I can promise you that, Ben. Lisa and I got married in 1998.
Yeah.
Claire was born in 99.
Right.
I became president in January of 2000.
Yeah.
I had 18 years of experience at the association. You might think I had a lot of stock or capital built up with Aggies, and I probably did. But I imposed a tremendous pressure on myself because of my vision for the organization. And I felt I needed to lead by example, and I felt I needed to be out there. And so in my first year of being the CEO, I'm everywhere. I was ubiquitous, on campus, off campus, A&M clubs, classes, you name it. I was there.
Yeah.
And our second daughter was born in 2000, in September of 2000. And what I didn't do was balance and understand the challenges of a young mother with two young children, 16 months apart to the day at home, and trying to still be a leader that was leading by example and that was highly engaged in trying to run an organization.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't balance that well, but I learned to balance it.
Yeah.
And it came with just some hard-earned, hard-learned, hard knocks.
I understand. You shared in a video on Texas A&M's YouTube channel that a lot of people could run the organization, but there's only one person who can be the dad to your kids. So that's your priority. Now, having said all the things you said a moment ago, what does that practically look like in your life?
Well, it looks like that I'm at all of their events.
Yeah.
And it required some sacrifice on both sides, personal and professional. But ultimately, I knew there'd be another reunion of the class of 71.
Yeah.
I knew there'd be another meeting of the Houston A&M Club.
Yeah.
I knew there'd be another Distinguished Achievement Award ceremony on campus. But there may not be another football game for my son.
Mm-hmm.
There may not be another dance competition for my daughters. There may not be another award ceremony for one of my children. And so my priority was to be there for their moments and have them know that their dad was there, and their mom. But their mom was at everything. It was the dad that was the challenge.
Yeah.
But I want him to see me in the stands. I want him to see me in the audience. And afterwards, I want him to know how proud I was of them, regardless of how they fared. And I know they never understood this, but it was more important to me at the time than it probably was to them. It'll be more important to them over time, I suspect. But it still is very important to me. A lot of my memories are centered around my kids' activities.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to it. We have a 13-month-old.
Good for you.
So yeah, we're excited to be parents. It's something I've wanted
best job in the world.
Oh yeah, no question. Let's move to some rapid fire. What do you consider your most valuable failure?
I tried to move the organization early on too fast. I mentioned a moment ago that I had a lot of capital built up with the Aggie Network, a lot of stock, if you will. But I had, if you will, let's just call it the old guard of the association.
Sure.
Who perhaps were used to the association being run a certain way. And now comes this younger guy with a vision and invoking technology and invoking things that were brand strategic, that were different.
Yeah.
And that meant we were saying different things, doing different things, speaking differently, mainly all to accomplish a brand strategy.
Yes.
And so I think I tried to move the organization too fast.
Okay.
I took a lot of action early on that if I would have tempered it, if I would have communicated better, if I would have perhaps not taken for granted that Aggies knew me and they would trust me.
Yeah.
They still needed to know what we were doing, why we were doing it, and when we were going to do it.
What is your fondest memory of Texas A&M?
Oh, I have so many, Ben.
Yeah.
The bonfire tragedy brought to the forefront the greatest spirit of Aggie land moment I think I've ever witnessed. To see the genuine, the raw, the powerful emotion associated with losing 12 of our own, and to see that candlelight vigil. I can close my eyes right now, and we walked from the Clayton Williams Alumni Center over to the bonfire side, and former President Bush was there, Governor Bush was there. It was powerful.
Yeah,
it was powerful. And while that is a tragedy, it revealed for so many people, not just Aggies, I think the world learned a lot about Texas A&M and Texas Aggies, how we feel about each other.
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to our school or our football program or any given tradition. I think it promoted to the world that Aggies really care about each other and that the spirit can never be told is indeed real.
What habit have you developed more recently that you would say has greatly contributed to your continuing success?
I've always been a good listener, man. And my dad used to tell me when I was a young man, he called me Bubba. He'd say, Bubba, God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. You ought to use them in that proportion.
Right.
And I've always been pretty quiet. I was pretty shy in high school. But the fine art of listening to hear versus listening to respond.
Yeah.
I can tell you when I'm talking to someone if they're listening to hear me or if they're in fact listening to respond.
Huh.
Sadly, so many people, and it's probably human nature, they're engaged. They want to respond to whatever you're talking to them about. But I think what I've honed is the ability to really listen to hear somebody and not worry about what my response might or might not be, but to really listen. And even if there's a pause, temper myself to process what I've heard before I respond.
If you were to ask Aggies to do one thing, those who are listening to this show, or those who might hear about this request from somewhere else, if you could get people to do one thing, what would it be?
I'd ask them to reflect on the great history of Texas A&M.
Okay.
I'd ask them to reflect on why they wear their ring, on why they have their diploma framed and hung in their home or their office.
Sure.
I'd ask them to reflect on their feelings about Texas A&M and Texas Aggies.
Yeah.
Because after 39 years, man, I can tell you, the greatest asset we have at the association is the emotion that Aggies have for Texas A&M and each other. The greatest liability we have is the great emotion that Aggies have for their university and for each other. So it cuts both ways, and that's understandable, and it should. But oftentimes, I think, and I'm one of them, I'm a former student who can get worked up pretty easily. And I have to temper that as the CEO of an organization that wants to bring together over 500,000 former students and not get sidetracked by a singular issue that is fleeting. And we have many issues at A&M.
Right.
We've always had many issues at A&M.
Sure.
In the 1900s, we had 2 alumni associations. There's always been issues of controversy and every Aggie knowing what is best for the future of A&M. A lot of that is in athletics. A lot of it's in the core. A lot of it's in the administration. And it's all good because that means Aggies care. They're paying attention. They want what's best. And I'm right there with them. But my process is to stop and reflect and understand that this may be an issue in 2020, may have been an issue in 2004, may have been an issue in 1965, which was probably the highlight of a lot of issues when A&M went through so many changes. But here we are. We're stronger than ever.
Yeah.
We're the largest undergraduate enrollment in the country.
Yeah.
We have the premier alumni association in the world. We are looked to by advancement organizations all over the country to say, how do y'all do what you do? And although we've dealt with lots of challenges and issues and controversies over the years, we've survived and thrived through every one of them. So I would ask Aggies to always keep the right perspective of Texas A&M in 141 years. Are we better today than we've ever been? We are. And we're going to continue to get better. Are we going to have setbacks and challenges just like any other university? Yes. I often talk about my own family and relate stories so that Aggies understand, look, do we have problems at A&M? Yeah, we do. Do we have challenges? Yes. But how about your family? You love everybody in your family? Everybody get along? What was your last family reunion like? And I'll tell them stories about mine. And so it kind of gets them to think about, even though we all have these challenges, it may represent a very small percentage of what we deal with and what we feel about being Texas Aggies. Focus on the positive. focus on why we wear that ring every day.
Sure. Yeah. Anyone you'd like to send some good bull?
Well, I'd like to send it to the entire Aggie network. I'd like to send it to our team at the association, who is the most professional alumni relations team in the country. I'd like to send it to my family and my 2 Aggies. I'm very proud of Claire and Callie. And hopefully I'll have a 3rd Aggie before too long. Yeah.
I love that. Porter, thank you so much for joining us.
Ben, it's been a pleasure.
We hope you enjoyed the episode with Porter, and now would like to jump into the MasterCast top 3 takeaways. Drum roll, please.
Woohoo!
So for our first MasterCast top 3 takeaway, I wanted to talk a little bit about the reaction to Bonfire. We've talked about that on the show before, and just the A&M community's reaction, but specifically what Porter mentioned, which was the Lyle Lovett and Robert Earl Keen concert, which might seem like a small thing if you weren't here at the time, but it was so important to the community coming together and feeling some happiness and reprieve, or just even community in such a tough time for Aggie land.
Yeah, it was, everything seemed all around that. It was one of the defining events of my childhood. I mean, I was a senior in high school when it happened, so technically still part of my childhood, and everything around that whole event seemed kind of larger than life in some way. And it was one of the defining moments of the university, to be honest. And there's a monument on campus that says so. And it was obviously a terrible tragedy, but the way that it brought the community together, yeah, it was the worst of times. And in some way or another, it was, I don't want to say the best of times because that's not the right word, but it was the most meaningful of times.
Well, and I think it showed in some ways the best of Aggies. So it was a terrible time that showed the best of what we are as a community and a family. Yeah,
that's a good way of putting it.
I love Lyle Lovett and Robert Earl Keen. They've been sort of a soundtrack to my College Station life, since being in school, and just have so many great memories. I've probably been between the 2 of them to almost 100 of their concerts, so I'm a little bit obsessed, but it's just such great memories with them. And I'm grateful to have the memory of that concert along with the really tough memories of the bonfire collapse, and just how much music brings back the emotions and feelings of those important times in our lives.
Yeah, I saw Robert Earl Keen at Harry's once and was close enough to, I could have probably reached out and touched his boot or something. He was up on stage and I was on the floor. But yeah, it's those 2 are definitely a part of the culture of this place in a way that few others are. And it was, I think, entirely appropriate that they were such a meaningful piece of what happened around that terrible tragedy.
They both went to school here, for those that might not know. And they have a song called The Front Porch Song, or This Old Porch, depending on which version you're listening to. And they both cut a version of it and sometimes sing it together. But they tell these just amazing stories about sitting on the front porch of their little house that was right behind Northgate and singing, just writing music and singing music together in their college days. And it just brings you back. And the whole song is about things about Bryan College Station, and it just puts you there no matter where you are in the world. That song puts you there, and it's just cool how, I don't know, you can kind of live vicariously through someone through music that's written that well.
Yes. Yeah. There's no question about that. And obviously, I identify with all that being from here and kind of having this place in my blood, but I think that it's music, there's this kind of unique ability of music and of story to take you to a place and immerse you in it. And I think one of the ways that Mays and Texas A&M have really improved is in really buying into story and as a method of communication.
I agree. And you didn't set this up intentionally, but it's a perfect segue to the use of the Aggie Ring as almost a marketing strategy, that there's this story behind the Aggie Ring, whether it's the awesome stories of the lost Aggie Ring that's been recovered at the bottom of the ocean 20 years later, or it's the power of someone recognizing the Aggie Ring and offering someone a job, whatever it is, the Aggie Ring itself is important, but it's really those stories behind it, the power behind those stories that makes the Aggie Ring so special. And I loved how Porter, I didn't know how intentional like Ring Day, for example, was as part of a marketing strategy for the Association of Former Students. I thought it just kind of evolved over time, but it was really cool to hear Porter talk about that being an intentional strategy.
Yeah. And all of the visual pieces around that have really kind of exploded in a good way as social media has gotten bigger, like the take your picture under the big ring and take your picture out front, in the back, like all of that, the little chalkboards, all of that has, as people are telling their stories more and more with photos and with videos and that sort of thing, that building and all of the setup around it, it's all kind of perfect. And it's a little bit like Disney World because when you walk into Disney, you marvel at just how well cultivated your experience has been. And it's kind of the same thing here.
Yeah.
There's definitely some of that going on.
No, you're right. I mean, and the Aggie Ring and the Association of Former Students, because of having that event there, becomes part of our Aggie story. And that day, that Ring Day, that's such a big celebration for all of our students, becomes such a big part of our Aggie story. And again, going back to that power of story being something that we look forward to. And like you said, the social media, being able to see that on someone's social media and thinking, I want that is really important.
Totally agree. And that's, to me, it's the good version of what Instagram and even Twitter and TikTok. I think we're gonna get some positive outcomes with TikTok sometime soon. And yeah, I'm here for it. I love people telling their stories through photos and especially video. To me, video really makes sense. And what's going to be done in and around that building in the coming years, I'm fired up for it. I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Yeah, that's great. For our last takeaway, I wanted to talk about the power of pivots and how so much of Porter's story was about pivoting, whether it was in his career or in the timing of implementing a marketing strategy for the Association of Former Students. There were just so many opportunities to pivot that Porter took that were really important to creating his story and his journey as well.
Yeah. And the ability to really think critically about the process. I don't know if there's necessarily a science to it yet, but I do think we are moving in that direction in terms of how to think about pivots. I think that, everybody kind of has their own way of assessing pivot situations and pivot questions. And right now, there's not really a wrong answer, but I look forward to what business research continues to give us in the future, because there may not be a field where it's more important to understand the psychological processes of pivoting than business, because that kind of informs all the other areas where we might think about how to do this. And the methods that we learn for optimizing in the business field can help us think about how to process what's happening in a relationship. I'm not saying you should treat a relationship like a business deal, because that's not right. But learning how to see things and hear things and how to think about things, I think the lessons from the business world often have a lot to teach us for how we address the rest of our lives.
Yeah. And maybe vice versa sometimes, but yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
That's great. Would you like to close this with a quote?
I would, per usual, love to close this with a quote. I'm just a simple plowhand from Arkansas, but I have learned over the years how to hold people together, how to lift some up, how to calm others down, until finally they've got one heartbeat. Together, a team. Bear Bryant.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening.
An MBA from Texas A&M University can take your career to a whole new level. With full-time and weekend options, Texas A&M suits your schedule. So get a better gig. Visit mba.tamu.edu.
Looking to start a podcast? Trying to tackle questions like, How do I record? How do I edit? How can I get music for my show? What equipment do I need? How do I distribute it? Good news. The podcast architects are here to help, whether that's from start to finish, fixing the audio quality, helping you get the episodes posted. Go to podconsulting.co. Everyone has something worth sharing with the world.